Not financial advice. This video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. In this video, we're going to look at a Bitcoin market update for January 2023. We'll look at expected value calculations and how to apply this to investments, including Bitcoin. And then finally, the question, is Bitcoin still a good investment or bet from now until 2025? It's January 12th, 2023 today. The Bitcoin price is at 18,250 US dollars. So currently we are about at a 75% drop from the all-time high of 69K. Historically, we've had drops of 80-90% in bear markets, so we're likely close to a bottom. Looking at growth and adoption, here we have the active Bitcoin addresses continuing to rise. So the orange line is showing how addresses are growing in relation to the log chart view of price. Here we see accumulation addresses near 800,000. So what they mean by accumulation addresses is wallets that have at least 2 incoming non-dust transfers and have never spent the funds. So significant incoming transfers that are not being spent out of the wallet, hence the name accumulating addresses. You can see 800,000 accumulation addresses is also an all-time high. The Bitcoin hash rate has returned to the all-time high. There was a brief dip because of the weather conditions in the US, but we've bounced all the way right back up. Here we see the Bitcoin dominance excluding stablecoins. So this is the blue line at the bottom. We're currently at about 50% if you exclude stablecoins, and you can see since May of 2021 we've been somewhere between 42% and maybe 57-58%. So it's held and recently on the rise. So the takeaways here are that the Bitcoin network keeps growing. We have accumulation that's broad-based with wallets growing as well, and the hash rate is at all-time highs. Looking at some historical price predictors, let's look at the Fear and Greed Index, the MVRV, which is market value to realized value, the Puell multiple, which includes mining profitability, and the NUPL, which is net unrealized profit and loss. So all of these together give us a good understanding if we're in overbought bull or oversold bear market. The Fear and Greed Index is at extreme fear, a ranking 25 out of 100. This index looks at things like volatility, market and momentum or volume, social media, sentiment, surveys, dominance, and trends. Here's the MVRV, market value to realized value. It's the blue line at the bottom there. It's showing we are hitting a low below 1. Values under 1 indicate a possible market bottom. Our second chart is the Puell multiple. It's the orange line below. Again, it indicates market bottoms. It's been very accurate historically. So we're in that green shaded area below, hitting an all-time low. The Puell multiple looks at the supply side of Bitcoin's economy, the miners and their revenue. So it's a good balance to some of the other indicators. Here's our third price chart showing NUPL, which is net unrealized profit and loss. It's the blue line. It's showing we're already into capitulation on historical metrics. This could be interpreted as the ratio of investors who are in profit. The takeaways from these charts is that nearly all BTC metrics are showing we are at or near bear market lows. Okay, and finally, let's look at some Bitcoin price predictions, probabilities, and scenarios related to each of these, and then expected value calculations. Before we get started here, the current price is now 18,250, and this chart was made a couple days ago. That's why it says 17,200. Okay, so the next chart, apologies if it's a little bit blurry. Tried to do my best to get the resolution high quality. So what we have here is across the top columns, you've got the Bitcoin price forecasts for 2025. The next middle column is the probability of that occurring. This is subjective, of course. The far right is conditions under which each category might be realized. And so again, this is subjective. The percentages, I tried to be reasonable and justify or back them up, back the argument up. But this is just for speculation purposes. Okay, so starting at the top, we've got Bitcoin goes to zero. I set a probability, again, over the next 3 years. The chances of this happening, I gave a 1% probability. There is a small chance that competing coins make Bitcoin irrelevant. Bitcoin as a major network fail, or the entire crypto market fails. But for that to happen in the next 3 years is, I think, almost a 0% chance of happening. The next one is Bitcoin goes below 10,000 US and stays there until 2025. Again, I gave a very low probability, a highly unlikely 4%. It is possible, though, similar to above, something like the proof of work miners failing, major disruption from governments, war, unforeseen events. In this case, only fanatics and niche investors keep hodling, and we stay at that very low level below 10K. Third option there is that Bitcoin stays between 10K and 25K. As we mentioned, the current price as of today is 17,200, but that it just stays here flat for the next 3 years until 2025. I gave this a 5% probability. It's highly unlikely. Bitcoin's history has either been very large increases or very large crashes. It's never stayed within a narrow range, and I don't think this will be the case in the future. The scenario where this might occur is if the network just stops growing. But again, I think it's quite binary. We'd either have it crash and go very low, or it's going higher. Moving along, I'll try to get through these fairly quickly. In the scenario where Bitcoin rises to between 25 and 50,000 US dollars, so that's about a 1 to 3x upside from the current price. I gave this a 20% possibility rather. It is possible that Bitcoin remains popular. However, the growth rate does not continue to be exponential. So the next bull run would be weak and seen as a failure. We would fail to hit a new all-time high. This is possible if competing coins like Ethereum take market share and are chosen instead of Bitcoin. If regulations remain unclear and institutions remain cautious, this is possible, but not that likely. The next one is the most likely of the scenarios. I gave this a 30% probability. That's where Bitcoin would hit 50,000 to 100,000 K by 2025. In this case, we do get another bull run, but it only slightly exceeds the all-time high of 69K. So the network and users keep growing, but Bitcoin dominance is undermined by competing coins. Alternatively, there's regulation, but it restricts the market cap to 1 to 2 trillion US dollars, and investors are independents and outsiders, but we don't get mainstream adoption. Okay, moving to the last three conditions, or rather forecasts, Bitcoin at 100,000 to 150,000 US dollars. That's a 5 to 10x price upside from today. I gave this as about a 25% probability. In this case, we get a bull run and we hit all-time highs of 1 to 1.5x higher. So from the 69K, we would double that, or some scenario like that. But that's only a diminishing returns of 1.5x from the previous all-time high. In this scenario, we do get clear regulation, and that gives a green light to institutions. We do get continued exponential growth. Users go up significantly. Adoption goes up significantly. The next one is very ambitious. It's where Bitcoin hits 150 to 250,000 US dollars by 2025. I gave this only a 10% chance. I don't think this is likely, but it is possible. In this case, we get a very healthy bull run, and we go 2 to 4x from the current all-time high. Institutional investment grows exponentially. It becomes essentially digital gold. Gold has a market cap of about 10 trillion. In this case, Bitcoin would be getting closer to 4 to 5 trillion market cap. You might see 1 or 2 more countries adopt it as legal tender or legalized as payment. Okay, and then finally, a Bitcoin scenario where it goes above 250,000 US dollars, very unlikely by 2025. I gave it a 5% chance. There is a scenario where global adoption and nation-state purchases cause a massive exponential growth towards 1 billion users, sovereign wealth funds, institutions. This is possible, but it's highly unlikely by 2025. I think that's just too soon. So I gave it a 5% likelihood. So that's the chart. All the probabilities add up to 100%. I think it's fairly conservative, somewhere in the middle, in terms of the likelihood probability I gave and the price ranges. In most of these scenarios, Bitcoin is not having a huge multiple of the most recent all-time high, yet I think there's a good chance it gets there or exceeds it by, let's say, 1.5x. I think that's reasonable. Adoption continues based on the earlier charts I showed. And again, there's different opinions on this. I'm open to feedback and people's ideas on the price ranges and the probabilities. Okay, so expected value calculations. So just a brief explanation of what expected value means and how it's calculated, and then we'll apply that to Bitcoin. So expected value calculation is the price of something times the probability of it occurring gives you the expected value. So it's price times probability equals expected value. So when calculating expected value, or EV, again, it's the price times the probability of that occurring equals the expected value. And so here, let's look at expected value for multiple outcomes with various probabilities. So what EV does, it helps us make rational decisions regarding cost and value based on the various probabilities of different outcomes. So you can use this for many different scenarios, including evaluating investments. In this case, we'll look at Bitcoin. But before we go and look at Bitcoin, let's just take a simple lottery ticket example. So let's say there's a hypothetical lottery ticket and it costs you $10, and you know you have a 0.0000001 chance of winning, but if you win, you're going to win $10 million. So expected value calculations can help you decide whether this is a good bet or not. So the calculation is done by calculating the probability of the loss times the outcome, which is a loss would obviously have an outcome of 0, and you have a 0.9999999 chance of losing and having a result of 0, versus the win. Of course, if you win $10 million, but the chances of that happening are 0.00001, or 0.000001. This yields an expected value of $1. So putting these two together, $0 plus $1 equals $1. So in this case, you should likely not buy the ticket, since the expected value of $1 US is less than the cost of $10 US. So I hope that illustrates. So applying expected value to our Bitcoin chart will give us an idea of what potentially could be the expected value of Bitcoin by 2025. Okay, so we've got the same chart. On the left we have the price ranges, and in the middle we have the probability, and then I'm showing you the expected value calculation, which is the price times the probability of that occurring. So Bitcoin going to zero, there's a 1% chance the calculation there would be 0 times 0.01 equals 0. In scenario 2, Bitcoin goes below 10K. What I took here is the average, which is 5,000 times a 4% probability gets you to 200, etc. all the way down. You can see, let's go to the very last one, the Bitcoin $250,000 or higher. I just used 250,000 times 0.5, which is 5%, equals a contribution of $12,500. And then if you add all of these up, we get to an expected value of $94,825. That's a 5.5x upside from our current price, which is very attractive. And it's just the expected value brings together all of the different price ranges or price probabilities, and then the probability of each of those occurring. Okay, so I hope this all was useful. The data I presented and some of the arguments. I'm open to hearing people's opinions. Going back to the original question, is Bitcoin a good investment over the next 2 to 3 years, targeting a 2025 outcome? On a risk-reward basis, yes, it's clearly an asymmetrical bet. By asymmetrical, we're saying the downside of let's say one Bitcoin at 17,200 US dollars, the downside would be a maximum loss of 17,200, whereas you have an upside of 5.5x with an expected value gain of 94,825 US dollars per Bitcoin. Once again, this is just speculation on my part. The numbers can be debated, but I hope it was a useful process. You can go through on your own, put in your own probabilities and price ranges and come up with your own numbers. And then finally, again, this is not financial advice. Bitcoin can go to zero at any time. Everyone's financial situation and risk tolerance is different, and don't risk money you can't afford to lose. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to hearing your comments.